Hey, what's going on everyone? It's Justin here and welcome to my top reasons why you should or should not upgrade or purchase the iPhone 6s. So I have been putting the device through its paces for about 24 hours now, and I think I'm ready to give you kind of my first impressions and initial reasons why this device is good or bad. So starting out with the good, let's talk about 3D Touch. I have to admit that when Apple announced the 3D Touch, I wasn't overly excited about it at all. But after learning how to use it and playing around with it, I have to say it is something that I'm going to be using a lot. So the two basic functions of the 3D Touch is peek and pop. By pushing it down, it will bring up some options, whether it is in your home screen, and by pushing it down further in certain functions, it would expand the certain field. Although right now, primarily it is just Apple apps that integrate it, such as photos, mails, messages, etc. There is apps that are already being updated to support this new 3D Touch, which is great to see. The next reason why I should get the iPhone 6s is the new Touch ID, which is much improved. The Touch ID was first introduced at the iPhone 5s and it has been improved year after year, but this year it is better than ever. The iPhone 6 already had a pretty good Touch ID sensor, but I have to say on the iPhone 6s it is way faster actually. I literally just have to rest my hand on the fingerprint sensor and it instantly opens up and takes me to my home page. So as we know, with every iPhone, whether it is an S iteration or a major upgrade, there is incremental spec bumps. This year we've got the Apple A9 processor and M9 coprocessor that is clocked in at 1.85 GHz, but more importantly, you finally have 2 GB of RAM. Although specs really aren't everything, I found that the iPhone 6s in general was much more responsive, and I'm not someone who really plays games or anything that is graphically intensive, but I did notice right away that my everyday tasks were much smoother to be performed on this iPhone 6s. From looking at the benchmark test here, you could see that it came out with a pretty impressive score with a multi-core of 4421 in Geekbench, which is actually a very close score to what the 12-inch MacBook with Retina display got. Speaking upon gaming though, the experience was great as you would expect, and the iPhone handled it very well. One thing I did notice though is that the iPhone still heats up a decent amount where it's noticeable when running graphic intensive apps. But when it comes to general performance, it is definitely welcome with the new specs, especially that 2 GB of RAM which we have been waiting so long for, which will come in very handy for multitasking, especially for those who never close their background running apps. So believe it or not, since the iPhone 4S, Apple has had an 8 megapixel sensor in their cameras, and although the camera has drastically been improved over the years incrementally, I definitely think it was finally time for Apple to up the megapixel count on their flagship smartphone, and they have definitely done so. This year we've got a 12 megapixel rear facing camera and a 5 megapixel front facing camera, which is an upgrade from the 1.2 megapixel front facing camera on the iPhone 6. But perhaps what I was personally the most excited for was 4K video recording. With my entire workflow being in 4K, whether it is recording my videos for YouTube, I also have a 4K display, edit in 4K, just purchased a drone that can record in 4K. It is pretty obvious by now that 4K is the future. As you would expect, the 4K video recording is great and the photos that it now takes is improved from last year. And one thing to really point out is that the dynamic range is significantly better, which you will see in my camera test and comparisons I'll be doing very soon. The front-facing camera has also seen an improvement as well, up to 5 megapixels, and it also now has a front-facing flash. You may have seen that from Snapchat before, where it just flashes a white screen to add light, but the iPhone 6s's front-facing flash actually detects the scene and flashes the color with the appropriate white balance, so that is also very useful. So now let's move on to why you shouldn't get the iPhone 6s. And the first thing is the battery. You knew I was going to pick on this, and being an owner of the iPhone 6, I wasn't really a fan of the battery life at all. This year, however, it really hasn't gotten any better. The battery is somehow smaller at 1715 mAh down from 1810. But on top of that, you do not have any of the features that you see other flagship smartphones implementing nowadays, including Qi wireless charging or fast charging technologies. Next up is why the hell did Apple sell an iPhone with a 16GB storage variant? Pretty much every flagship smartphone nowadays starts at least 32GB, and that really is what makes sense: 32, 64, and 128. It is said that the jump from 16 to 64GB only costs Apple $7, but for some reason they are charging about $100 more for that jump. And let me tell you, from past experiences and now the introduction of 4K video, I wouldn't even recommend to my worst enemy to purchase a 16GB iPhone. If you may have seen SuperSAF TV's tests, it managed to record just 30 minutes of video in total before it maxed out the entire storage on the 16GB iPhone. But although the iPhone is pretty expensive, I definitely recommend that you go for the 64GB model, and in my case you can see it is exactly what I need. I had a 128GB iPhone last year, but really didn't use any of that at all. So the next reason why you maybe should stay away from the iPhone 6s is pretty controversial, and it is entirely based on market pressure. With the smartphones such as the Samsung Galaxy S6 Edge, the Note 5, with the beautiful QHD displays, or the LG G4 for example, UHD displays are definitely a modern day thing. But the iPhone 6s still has the same 1366 by 768 resolution display with a PPI of 326, what Apple still calls a Retina display. Personally, I don't have any complaints of the display. I think it is very sharp. The color representation is great. I know some people out there may really want a QHD display, especially after seeing the Samsung displays or even coming from one. But on the other hand, since the battery life wasn't an improvement at all this year, I would imagine that with a QHD display, the battery life would be even more atrocious on this iPhone 6s. So you're gonna have to wait till next year for a battery improvement hopefully and a QHD display. With the release of the 12-inch MacBook, Apple got a ton of shit for putting a 480p webcam on that thing. But now we're looking at the iPhone 6s, it is 2015, and you've got a 720p webcam on the front. I know it takes great photos and everything, but seriously, the rear-facing camera can record 4K video, we get it, so I think the front-facing camera should be getting an upgrade as well to at least Full HD. So I guess we're gonna have to wait another year for that too. The last reason why you shouldn't purchase an iPhone 6s is probably the most common complaint. iPhones are very expensive whether you are on contract or not, and with many carriers offering great deals such as T-Mobile nowadays, having to purchase your device outright is still very expensive, especially if you compare it to any other flagship smartphone on the market. You also have to keep in mind that you're jumping up to the 64GB model, as I hope nobody is actually going to purchase the 16GB iPhone 6s. But the good news is that since it is an Apple product, I've historically been able to get a very good resale value after using my device for a year. So it's really up to you whether you would like to upgrade to the iPhone 6s, especially if you already own an iPhone 6. But other than that, this has just been my reasons why you should or should not purchase a new iPhone 6s. And personally, I would say I'm definitely enjoying the new iPhone, but there is also a lot to consider for the regular consumer. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button as it always helps me out a bunch, and look forward to some more videos coming out over the next few days, and obviously my full review. I'll see you all in the next video.